All right.
Okay.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest here that's been damaged by antibiotics and she's recovering or recovering, I would say. Wouldn't you say, Taylor?
Recovering.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
recovering.
Recovering. Okay. And
Yeah,
so you can see here she's a completely 180% different woman. I mean, your hair's different, your skin's different, your smile. I mean, everything about you is completely
not
100%.
in pain anymore. It's
Yeah,
a
you're not in
huge
pain
difference.
anymore. So just to give the people that are going to be watching this, and you'll be making an impact all over the world, right? One thing with like the internet now, someone in, I don't know, Thailand can be watching uh, Taylor, like, how much better you actually are. So
Yeah,
before we got recorded this call, we just kind of went through some things, and there were some personal things that she has gotten really, really good success with. And I just wanted to
yeah,
make sure that she was comfortable talking about those things. And she is, which I think is a really good bonus to any human being that's suffering that is
yeah,
watching this right now. So I think maybe what we'd want to do to start off with is just kind of give people out there a feel of like how bad things were for you, what was going on. I know you had like a lot of extreme pain
yeah.
sensitivity, like you couldn't wear a bra,
Nope.
all sorts of like bad things that are just a lot of suffering.
Yeah. My journey is a bit different than a lot of other people that I see. Um, I was floxed in 2012, so it's been over 10 years since this initially happened to me, and it was pretty bad. My symptoms were a lot of tendinopathy. I ruptured both Achilles tendons,
Oh
and
wow, okay.
yeah, I had to be in a wheelchair if I wanted to go anywhere, but I
Jesus.
couldn't push that wheelchair because I couldn't use my hands. And
Wow, I got goosebumps. Sometimes, just like I said with Adam, sometimes when I get on a phone call initially with people, like I don't get all the information because they're just so damn fatigued and in pain. It's just like let's get
yeah,
to the basic stuff. So yeah.
yeah, and that was horrible. I couldn't wear shoes for a few years. And slowly my body would recover from things, but then it seemed like something else would go a little haywire. And I had been through a bunch of other doctors, and I just felt like they weren't helping. They didn't know how to help. They thought if I was off of the fluoroquinolones that I wouldn't be experiencing any of the symptoms that I was. And
Right.
most of my stuff didn't start till way after I had stopped taking the antibiotic. Um, I I
What
was
what was
frustrated.
your initial thing? Why did you initially go in? Like what was the
Oh,
initial
so I always had breathing problems. I had a very severely deviated septum.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was really into Brazilian jiu-jitsu at the time. And when people are choking you out and they're covering your nose and your mouth and stuff, you want to be able to breathe through your nose.
Right, yeah.
So it was really important to me to get my nose fixed. And because I had such a bad deviated septum, I had been having lots of sinus infections. So like my whole youth I was always on antibiotics.
Uh-huh.
And after the surgery, um, it was a really successful surgery. I could totally breathe afterwards. It changed my life. But after the surgery, I got a sinus infection, initially. And so they put me on Levaquin.
Mhm.
And I was on Levaquin for a few days. And, I felt pretty good. I didn't, it was like I had worse sinus infections before. And I was working a convention with my father and, just walking around. And all of a sudden, I couldn't walk anymore.
Wow.
And I was just like I had to start walking slower and slower, and each step became more painful, and my ankles were just super super swollen and red, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then I realized, oh, I'm on a medication. So I called my doctor, and he's like, okay, you're having a reaction to the medication, stop taking it, just
Right.
stop.
Mhm.
And that was all the information I had.
Hmm.
And
And
I
that
had
was
no
10
idea.
years ago, right?
Yeah, that was 2012.
Yeah, because a lot of I've been getting some questions on like, can I still get better if it's been like 10 years or 20
Right.
years?
Yeah.
And I mean, you're a case in point that you can, and I've helped a lot of
Yeah.
people that have gotten better with decades of damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I had no idea what was causing that damage. And, I was on other medications that had fluoride in it, like
Mm.
Lexapro and Flonase and things like diflucan. And I had no idea that I was bombarding my body with stuff that wasn't going to be helping my healing.
Right.
And so I started to get off the meds and I started to get improvements, but I was never ever back to normal. And I thought to myself, I'm just gonna wait this out. I'm just gonna, stay home, rest, let my body heal, and maybe I'll bounce back. And I
Right.
just never bounced back.
Yeah. Right.
And my eating, I was kind of a homebody, so my way of stimulation was cooking. And so eating was that stimulus that I needed. So I started eating not the best stuff, making little tarts every night and, lots of sugar and gluten and bread making. And I just started to feel more run down and I started developing lots more back pain. And the back pain was so bad, I'd wake up in the morning, I think I have to get a new mattress. I need to get a
Right.
new bed.
Yeah.
Like this is horrible. Like I'm constantly, laying down on the couch on my heat pad and I couldn't wear anything constrictive or like a snug tank top, a hooded sweatshirt. This shirt that I have right here, it's just a nice
Yeah.
flimsy very very light
Probably
thing.
weighs 2 ounces.
Yeah, totally intolerable. I could not wear this for more than 60 seconds where I just felt like there was like an elephant sitting on my chest or something.
Wow.
And traveling, being in an airplane seat, my mom took me to Hawaii, just to try to cheer me up. It was this big thing. And, I'm sitting there and I'm just in tears the entire flight.
Because of so much pain.
So much pain. We get there, we're on the beach. I can't wear a bikini top because it
Ah.
pulls on my neck.
Oh,
And so I'm
geez.
sitting there in tears. I'm trying to enjoy myself. I'm in paradise. And it was just the worst experience ever.
Yeah.
And, traveling in a car, having a seatbelt across, I'd have to hold it out with my hands, and then my hands would get tired. And it was just exhausting. And then, I had, I own chickens. And sometimes,
You own what?
I have chickens.
Oh,
I'm a
chickens. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I take care of little chickens and
Yeah.
stuff. And sometimes, when you hear them squawking out in the yard, you got to run out and make sure that they're okay. We have
Right.
hawks and stuff as predators. And so, I would try to, I'd hear something, I'd spring up, I'd run outside, and just that little sprint, 20-foot sprint would leave me feeling like I was getting over the flu for like 3 days. I'd be on my
Wow.
back for 3 days. And is just I knew something was wrong. It almost felt like the more I've learned, it sounds like a chronic fatigue syndrome
Yeah.
where I just could not recharge. Any sort of exercise would make me feel, uh, like changing the sheets on my bed made me feel like I just did 3 hours of jujitsu.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
That was.
it's
Yeah. It's like your
ridiculous,
mitochondria was totally trashed.
totally trashed. And, this is one of the things where I'm like, do we talk about it? Do we not? Having an orgasm is
Yeah.
something you think of as a rewarding
Yeah.
experience. But for me, afterwards, the rest of the day, I just feel terrible. And
After
I
you
would
had
be,
one.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
would be on my back for 2 days trying to recover from that. Like it felt like every cell in my body was just exhausted.
Yeah.
And that's about the time that I finally found you. And I was doing all this research on my own, and it was so scary because I had been, just like I'm like, if I just focus on getting better, my body will bounce back, and it
Right.
didn't.
Yeah.
And that was really scary when it didn't. So I started trying to do my own research, and there was all this information about all the damage that these drugs can do to you, but there was no information about what
Solutions.
you
Yeah.
can do to get better. And so when
Right.
I would try to do this research, by the time I'd learn all this stuff, and I would just start crying. And it was, just so scary.
Yeah.
And I found your videos on YouTube, and you're like, if you've been floxed, you need to take these 3
Okay.
supplements.
Yeah. The magic trio.
And
Yeah. Right.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
I started taking the magnesium glycinate
Uh-huh.
and the omega-3 fish oil,
Yeah.
and
It's a quiz now. What's the third one?
it's caprylic acid.
Yes.
And
Nice job.
one of the other symptoms that I had been experiencing for 2 years straight was my feet would be sweating. And
Yeah,
I
that
went
was
to
in this
three,
paperwork here. I was just
yeah,
refreshing my brain on that. Yeah.
I went to 3 different doctors and they're like, oh, it's athlete's foot. Here's some cream. And I did that and nothing changed. And then I'm like, oh, this is from sweating. So let's give you a,
A drug.
antibacterial thing. And so I put that on and it didn't help. And then I'm like, okay, if it's from sweating, I'll use an antiperspirant. So I'm using this heavy duty, like aluminum
Yeah.
antiperspirant on my feet. And it wasn't getting better. And I'd get these like really painful, like holes in my skin between my toes, and I couldn't walk because it hurt so bad.
Was there
And
wounds there, or was it just like a neurological pain?
no, it was a wound, an open wound.
Oh, okay.
And so after about 1 month on your trio, the sweating completely stopped and my feet completely healed and I could walk again. And I went, this guy is onto something.
Okay.
I need to contact him.
Right, right, right.
And that's when we did the discovery call. And I thought, oh, I was pretty unscathed by this antibiotic. Like, I feel like my brain health is good, my gut health is good. And then I'm like, we talked a little bit and I'm like, wait a minute, maybe it's not that good.
Right.
Maybe there
I
could be some
remember then
improvement here.
we did a quick neurological exam, and I think, were you like into gymnastics or something when you were younger?
No, but I did smack my head a few times.
Okay, because I
Uh,
remember you're saying, "Oh, my
Nothing
balance
tumble.
is gonna be good. My balance is gonna be good." Then we did a couple of these neurological things, and you like tipped right over.
And it was startling because
Yeah.
I thought, it was going to be okay. But so that was really revealing. And once we started doing supplements and I got my magnesium drip here.
That's awesome.
And we started doing that. I started feeling better. And then unfortunately, I had some blood work done and I noticed that my B12 levels were kind of low.
Oh yeah, right, right, okay.
So my primary care physician suggested, just go on a B12 supplement.
Yeah.
It might help you feel better. And we know that B12 really helps with energy. I'm low energy. It's over the counter. I've taken it before. I thought it'd be totally harmless. And I had a horrible allergic reaction to the B12 where it refluxed me.
Yeah.
Like day one, couldn't walk, huge swollen ankles, couldn't use my hands. I couldn't wash a dish. I couldn't walk my dog. And I credit the fact that I recovered so quickly from that to your protocol, because I know how many years it took me to recover the first time it felt that way. And, within a few months, I tried to go for a little hike again and I was still at my baseline.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really important. But also, I think having that experience of losing my mobility again put a fire underneath me
Right.
to take it more seriously and really adjust my diet. Some of the other bad symptoms I was having was, all this inflammation in my body. I was starting to have chest pains, and I also had like a lump and on my chest, and I'm like, oh my God, do I have cancer? Do I have a heart problem?
Like in the tissue there, you mean, or was
like where the sternum meets the
sternum?
rib.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I started getting sort of like a little bulbous,
Yeah.
just that it felt like a protrusion, but it's not really painful or anything. But I started having, sort of random phantom chest pains. And, I went to 2 doctors and they're like, it's nothing serious. It's just inflammation.
Right.
And and they both said inflammation where the sternum meets the rib.
Yeah.
And you talk about inflammation and
Yeah.
stuff, and you're like, you should try this AIP diet that helps with inflammation. And I'm like, I quit gluten, maybe I'll
Yeah,
think
I remember
about
that,
it.
yeah.
But then when this happened, the amount of anxiety I had, having chest pain and this stuff and blatantly being told is definitely inflammation. I went on the AIP diet, and within a couple of weeks, I felt so different.
Yeah.
And I my skin changed. Like my
Yeah,
skin looked better.
I
People were
can't tell you, like,
commenting
you
that
look like a completely different woman. I mean,
I feel
you're
like a different woman.
yeah, I mean, you love your hair. Do you love
I
your
do.
hair?
Yes, I do.
I could tell. Okay, so I remember the first time like we had a conversation. I think you were like in your like sweatpants.
Yeah.
You just looked run down. There wasn't any sparkle. I mean, you're like a
No
completely,
sparkle.
Yeah, we're a completely different human being now. I
It's
mean, it's
the amount of
shocking.
pain that I was in. I mean, this diet has taken away like 50, 60% of the pain. Like, I don't think about it during the day. I would wake up and it was the first thing I'd think about. I wake up, I have to go, check on the chickens, empty their waterers, bend over first thing in the morning when my body's all stiff and cold. And like, it was just, I had to do it so slow and so carefully. And now I don't even think about it. I just
Yeah,
wake up and I go.
yeah.
And it's been, a huge thing. And changing the diet was difficult. I highly recommend that anybody who does this, to try the diet, but teach yourself how to cook. Learn how to cook.
Hmm.
Make your own food, because it's so hard to go out and trust the food that you eat
Right.
with all the
Yeah.
seed oils and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, I also have food allergies. Like, I
Yeah.
can't eat anything with almonds, or I'm in the hospital on my deathbed. So it's you know go on YouTube, learn how to make some simple meals, and take care of your body with the right diet. I mean, that plus the supplements. I finally, because I've seen such a drastic change in, pain management and energy and stuff. Like, I can go run after the chickens. I can have an
Right.
orgasm and not have consequences now.
I
Like,
mean, you just
it's
look at that. I mean, I would imagine that was interfering with your like relationship that you'd want to have with.
well, there's no, after 10 years of being crippled, you don't have much of a social life.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
All right.
so
So that's why
it
that
was more
smile's so big now.
big, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, I just want to kind of bring to that point is, these conditions really affect just like
ev-
intimacy. I mean, if you're in pain,
yeah,
you feel like crap, you got gut problems, you're in pain. I mean,
yeah,
that's just like devastating on all social aspects. I mean,
everything. I mean, I haven't been able to work. I mean, I was, a social butterfly before this. I had the coolest friends, I had the coolest job, I had the coolest hobbies. And then all of that got kicked out from underneath me in an instant. And I was
yeah,
never able to recover any of it. And, it happens long enough and you start losing your work contacts and your friends
yeah,
and your
yeah,
lovers. And, it's, I finally feel like there's a chance that, I can get those things back now.
yeah, for
Whereas
sure.
before, I mean,
Totally.
it is really scary.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too, like when people come to me, it's just a matter of, like you were on this journey for 10 years and you went through a bunch of different doctors and tried your own different thing. I think when people come to me, it's where I think my expertise lies in is I can really guide people and kind of fine tune things where people can start moving the needle versus a lot of
Yeah.
people are just throwing spaghetti on the wall and they don't really have a rhyme or reason. They went on this Facebook group or they heard this, and it's just kind
Yeah.
of like a bunch of randomity without really a specific guided plan. For example, like you were doing better and then you went to your GP and he said take B12 and then all of a sudden shit, you get a big flare, right? So
Yeah.
then I think we kind of talked about that. I think you were an over methylator, right? So
Yeah.
you over methylate, right? So
Yeah.
that's where you gotta have to be kind of gingerly about the whole program and what's tried. And I think we went really slow and methodically.
Oh, we're
We did
going so slow. Like, I
right.
mean, I think, I'm probably not your best patient, because you suggested a lot of things to me that I'm just too scared to try.
Yeah.
Like, I'm feeling this much better and I'm only doing half the stuff you're saying.
Right.
Like, I have, I guess, some PTSD from my other experiences.
Yeah, for
And,
sure. It's
what's
almost been a
nice
year
is
actually.
it has.
Okay. I just like
And
looked at that November
and
7th.
and that's another thing, is that these things, you know, sometimes things feel better, but a lot of this stuff takes a month or
It
two
does.
to
Yeah.
actually work. And so you
Yeah.
need to stay committed. And the thing I like about you is that I don't feel rushed. I don't feel pressured to do every single thing. Like, there's another doctor that I visited that wouldn't really tell me what he was going to do, but wanted me completely on board. And I'm just like,
Mm,
no,
yeah.
this doesn't feel like the right dynamic.
Yeah.
And with you, I'm just like, oh, I don't think I want to take that supplement. I don't know much about it yet, and it's like, you're like, okay, well, maybe we'll try this.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
you're very patient with me.
Well, thank you.
And that allows me to trust you. And I feel, I just, trust is really, really hard after you've been through something like this, where everybody
Yeah.
says that can't possibly happen. They
Yeah.
tell you it's in your head. They tell you you must be depressed. They're telling you that this anxiety is not healthy. You need to go on, an antidepressant or something. It's, that it makes you not want to tell anybody what you're going through in a
Yeah.
sense, because it's, I don't know, it's a weird experience. And it's very interesting how my primary care physician is like, so what are you guys working on? What's he having you do? Is it
Oh,
working?
they're asking.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
he's
Well,
like,
at least
he's
there's
like,
some
you look great, your
inquisitivity.
blood work's better. What's been going
Oh,
on? And I'm
okay.
just like, oh, I'm working with this guy, yeah. And
Oh, that's awesome.
so it's fun because you're like teaching them,
Right. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
things you can do. So
Yeah, I think one of the things like you brought up there is like especially people that have been damaged by these antibiotics is you have to go slow.
yeah,
And especially when someone already has a reservation. Some people come to me and they don't have much of a reservation, and some people do. Like you were more that had a reservation. I'm completely fine with wherever someone's at. Like I don't want to push anybody. Like that's the way you
right.
felt. It wasn't being like do this or hit the highway. But I think that's really critical. You have to try things, you have to implement things, then you have to move forward, and then you have to have another like a Zoom call or phone calls or emails. This is where like the communication back and forth and problem solving. And at the end of the day, I don't know everything. Like I'm the
Right.
first thing to tell you, I don't know everything, and I don't know how some of these things are going to react in people's bodies. But I know that these are principles that work, and if you're willing to
Right.
work and be in communication, like there's possibility.
Yeah, that's another piece of advice I'd like to give people who are going through a similar situation, is that you have to have the bravery and the courage to try some of this stuff.
Yeah,
And when everything you try to do, you end up getting hurt. There's, everything has a consequence. You try to do something, and it doesn't make you feel better. It makes you, reticent to
yeah.
try anything else. And if you do that, you will never get better. And
Mhm.
so even though it's scary, you need to try. Just suck it up and keep trying.
Yeah.
And because if I hadn't, I wouldn't feel so much better now.
You'd be
So I
still
mean,
sitting in
there's
your 1980 PJs, with your hair in the bun.
yeah,
You know.
it's I mean, I still have a ways to go to where I was at,
Mhm.
but it's just such a difference how pain can just ruin your life.
Yeah.
And you've taken away so much of my pain. I mean, like I just, I feel like I can make plans now. And
Yeah.
when you're going through something like this, it's hard to predict where you're going to be. And it's just, a really depressing feeling. So you've helped me. You've literally helped me so much.
Thank you.
Like it really works,
I
what you've
appreciate that.
you've helped me with. Like,
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for that acknowledgement. Wow, that's pretty awesome. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the community out there? Anyone that's in your spot? Any kind of advice you want to give some people before we depart?
hit up Dr. Hugh. I mean,
Okay.
talk to him. Like, it's um don't be scared to try to heal yourself. Don't be scared of trying new supplements. um be committed to a diet plan. Learn how to take care of yourself, give yourself that priority, and know that it takes a little while for this kind of thing to get better. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think that my problem, how I got into this mess in the first place, was I I've got a job, I got a social life, I have to feel better
Uh,
today.
yeah.
So give me that pill, you know what I mean? Like, give me that drug.
Hmm.
And because I want to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that those kind of quick fixes can end up really being detrimental. And that things like being healthy, not drinking, not smoking, not doing drugs,
Yeah.
having a clean diet, those are the things that are really going to bring you back.
Hmm.
And with the antibiotics and stuff, you have been damaged, and it's hard
Yeah.
to admit that. And you might need to do this for a long time, and you might have to do it forever, but
Could
it
be.
is so much better than doing nothing.
Mhm.
Because when you do nothing, you just, for me, I was just degrading and degrading and
Yeah.
degrading.
Mhm.
And, on a cellular level, energy, it was like a car without an alternator. There was no charging system. At the
Right.
end
Yeah.
of the day, I'd just be done. And like it would take the rest of the week to recover. Whereas now, I can do my dishes and fold my laundry in the same day.
Yeah.
When we first started talking, I could not do my dishes and laundry at the same
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Like that was too much in a day. And now I do it, I don't even think about it.
Yeah. That's
So,
awesome. I mean, you weren't even going to the grocery store, right? Because the
oh my
clothes
gosh.
was
Yeah, I couldn't wear, I mean, like when I would try to get dressed, I would have to wear something very, very flimsy, and I would have to wear an oversized, super loose sports bra. Like
right.
there's no support, and I couldn't be stylish or cute or
Yeah.
nothing. And so like I'm insecure about the way I look. I
Yeah.
feel horrible.
Yeah.
And like the second I get home, I have to peel off all my clothes, and just like I couldn't, even having pajama pants, like when you bend your leg and the fabric pulls over the
Yeah.
joint, was just excruciating. And it's just like, how do you focus on anything when you can't even wear a pair of pants?
Yeah.
Like it's so much better now. It's
Yeah.
so much better now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It
Yeah. It's
is awesome.
crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I really, really greatly appreciate this. You're gonna be helping a lot of people, and I just wanted to say again, like you're I mean, the day and night difference in your looks and your smile and your hair and just everything is just it's
People
amazing.
notice. People notice.
Oh
Like
yeah,
it's
you noticed that for sure.
real.
So yeah,
Thank you.
it's pretty awesome to see. Just want to acknowledge that your commitment. I mean, we've been working together for, well, like I say, November is going to be a year,
Yeah.
and you just take little, it's the turtle wins the race, right?
Yep.
So and I think too, like you've definitely been in there, then in the turtle wins the race. I think um sometimes with chronic illness is it's the actual, like between the ears, like you can get better, there's still a solution out there for you,
Yeah.
where that can be a big hurdle for people because they just feel so beaten down, and maybe their family or whoever is just like, this is crazy, this is still going on, it's all in your head, take some antidepressant medication. So that's
Yeah.
where like the fortitude of just like every day just get up and put
Yeah.
your pants on and do something that's pro health in a guided path, so that you
Yeah.
feel like you're making some kind of structural change or some path change in the right direction.
Yeah. And I mean, I like this last month, um, I fell off the wagon a little bit. My roommate, his birthday, like we got pizza and we had cookies and cake. And I'm like, oh
Oh,
man, if we're doing this, I broke into my freezer. I got my Easter candy that I had like stored away like a
what
little squirrel.
happened?
And oh man, it was wonderful. I felt great. And the next day I felt fine. And I'm like, oh, I got away with it. Maybe I'm totally healed. And then for like 2 weeks straight, I had the
Payback.
worst sugar addiction.
Ah,
Like
yeah.
the cravings were insane. And working out of that, like I had started smoking pot again. And, I started getting these really intrusive, depressing thoughts, or I just
Mm-hmm.
be really down on myself. I'm like, where is this coming
Coming
from?
from.
And then, I saw my skin start to get
Ah,
weird again. And I'm like, okay,
shit. It was the
can't
binge.
I can't do this.
Yeah.
And so, you go back to your diet and you can literally see yourself kind of perk up like a plant.
Yeah.
Like
Right. For sure.
it's
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's the protocol is what's doing this. It's
Yeah.
making things better.
And I
So
think on that note, that's very, very common, Taylor, is like someone
yeah,
gets better. I mean, we're all human beings, right? I don't live
yeah,
a perfect life, but by any means, and we all dive down into things that kind of fall off the wagon. And I think the thing that's really significant, like with like your case, is like you realize, like, so as people recover, they're gonna have to weigh the pros and cons. Is it worth me doing ABC, the pizza
right.
and whatever, to
How
have
much
two
can I get
weeks
away
of
with?
yeah, to have 2 weeks of shit? Or
Yeah,
is that is that reward enough for that? And some people just say no, it's totally not. And so as people get better, they can push their body a little bit more, and then they learn back, and they're like,
yeah,
oh, that's too much, and then get back on
yeah,
on the protocol, the diet, and all these different things, the supplements, and then they start to heal up. I mean, your body is
yeah.
is resilient now a lot more than it was a year ago.
Yeah. And it becomes kind of like an electric fence. You're like, I can eat that cake,
Right. Okay.
but it's gonna hurt for the
Yeah.
next, few weeks. And
Yeah.
so you weigh the risks and the benefits and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. That's kind of funny you bring that up because we have an electric fence for our dogs,
Uh-huh.
and one of the collars wasn't working. And we have there's two labs, this white lab. Well, anyway, this lab was crossing and it crossing the line here and actually bit someone. It's old. It can't see. Right. So then
Right.
I'm like, well, what the hell's going on? So then I get the collar and the battery's dead. Right.
Right.
So the damn thing's been crossing the shock. So then I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I got to retrain it. So I put the collar on, put a new battery in, and I got some big meat. Like I pulled some meat
Oh,
out of the refrigerator, some like pepperonis, and
yeah.
then
Good.
I want him to get shocked. Right. So,
Right.
I mean, he crossed it like a couple times. He's like, because I
I
had to crank,
remember. Yeah.
I had to crank it up, because like this guy comes knocking on the door and his leg's bitten. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so this is the problem. So when
Yeah.
you talk about
Serious
that,
problem.
yeah, I mean, I cranked the power up and he got zapped about 2 times. And then I went around the whole perimeter with this meat and I stuck it in his face and he did not cross that line. No,
Yeah.
he knew what
That's
was going to
what I'm
happen.
going through. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. That's me bring that. All right, great. Well, I appreciate you coming on and you're going to really save someone's life with this testimonial. So
So are you. Thank you.
ciao.
Ciao.
Take care. Bye-bye.